welcome back to another episode of Talking into Profits. This is the show where we dive into powerful conversations with industry experts to uncover actionable insights that can help you thrive in your business and beyond. And today, man, I have the amazing Debbie Bryan with me. We are going to be talking about from self-doubt to TEDx. We're going to talk about how that can happen, how to get you there. Let's get you started with a question, though, first of all, because we want to make sure we're live and that you're here and hanging out with us. Have you ever felt like your story, or maybe just a part of it, wasn't worth telling and that no one would listen to you? Let us know in the comments. But Debbie here, Debbie
That'd be me.
is a TEDx speaker. You're a mentor for other amazing people who want to be speakers as well. And what caught my attention, we met, where did we meet now? I can't even remember where
I
we
think on
met.
a podcast we met. I think I was interviewing you.
Yeah, you were. Talk about menopause moment. Yes, Debbie interviewed me for her show, and I actually invited her on the get to know you conversation. I was like, I got to have you, because she was talking about who wants to hear from Debbie from Swindon. And I'm like, how many people have that same question, that we all feel that way? And I just had to have you here. So thank you so much for joining me.
You're welcome.
But go ahead.
I was going to say the Debbie from Swindon follows me like everywhere. I think, even though you're saying, I'm a TEDx speaker, every time you go up a new level, you have a new devil, and then she comes back. So she's never banished. She's banished temporarily, but she's never banished. The Debbie from Swindon comes to ride again, And I think that's the same for everybody. I think it's the same for everybody in businesses, is that every time you grow, there's a new level, there's a new imposter syndrome.
I know it is. And it's funny. I see these coaches all the time, and I know you've seen this as well. And they're all like, oh, kill your imposter syndrome, your self-doubt forever. And I'm like, that's not possible. That's our little brain monkeys, our little croc brain in there.
Oh, wow. I have a cheeky monkey that sits on my shoulder going, like, even if I were like, I'm going to confess now to your audience, even after I did my TED talk, the day after, I was like, can I call myself a speaker now? And I was like, oh my God, Deb, what do you need on top of a TED talk to then be able to say to people that you're a speaker? And that was before like the TED talk came out, and I realized that it was much bigger a deal than I thought to other people, that actually you do get a little bit of fame and celebrity. And my when people started coming up to me in the street and going, oh my God, you did a TED talk, and in the pub, I was like Del Boy when he won the lottery, people coming over and patting me on the shoulder. So it was way before then, but I was like, can I call myself a speaker now? I wonder. And like, that's just madness, isn't it? I'd flown all the way to Canada to do a TED talk, stood on the stage, done the TED talk, and still had that imposter syndrome, just a little bit of it sitting there, going, yeah, I don't know if you're genuine yet. I don't know if you're there.
Yeah. And let me ask you, do you feel like you're a speaker now?
I do. But there's still other people that are like better speakers, or that earning more money. It took a long time to go from the Debbie from Swindon, where I thought who'd want to listen to Debbie from Swindon. That's a genuine, I don't know if you want me to recap. The first time somebody asked me to speak, I was with a coach, and he's like, I'll make you a speaker. And I went to an event in London, and like, it was a coach that was in Essex. And so we go to London, and the girls are all quite young, they're in their 20s, and I'm just like, I'd had a year where life had not gone very well in business. I'd lost my confidence, and I'm in my 50s, and I'm overweight, and I'm not hip and trendy, and I haven't made people hundreds of millions of pounds. And so I worked this event. He said, come and work with me and I'll make you a speaker. So I worked this event, and I did really well. There's 45 people in the room, and I sat with them all. It was a social media called Rockstar Social, and it was a social media course, but with implementation. So everyone had their laptops, and we got in and done stuff with them. It was fantastic. And then on the Sunday, he said to me, do you want to get up and speak? And there were two people there. There was one guy that had 3 business degrees, and one that was an NLP master. And I was like, no, who's going to listen to Debbie from Swindon? I've got these people who actually I hope they're not listening, but they weren't that entertaining at the time when I look back now. But I was totally intimidated, literally. And he was like, "Are you sure you don't want to?" And it's on day 3. I've been with these people for 3 days, and I had a white t-shirt, and I was like, "Oh my god, the light's going to show my bra. No one's going to listen to me." And we were stood in what essentially was a cupboard, like a storage cupboard, and I just literally stayed in the closet. I stayed in the cupboard. And then on the way home on the train, I nearly beat myself to death. I was like, "You idiot. The first opportunity you had for this person who's going to make it," and you said no. You literally said no.
But
And I
we've
was just
all
like,
been there. We've all been there. And I mean, and think about it. You said so much stuff right now that I know everybody listening, I know it's gone through my head. I mean, I'm not the young one anymore. I'm not quite as pretty. I'm a little overweight. I haven't spoke. I mean, who's going to listen to me? Who wants to
yeah,
hear my story? I'm boring. All of these things have gone through all our heads, and I'm quite sure we've got Derek here with us, Miss Beth Ann Campbell, and Dave Reese. I am sure, let us know if those thoughts have gone through any of you guys' heads. I'm sure it is. I mean, I know we're not alone in this. I mean, Beth alone here, my inner voice critic alerts me when I need to pay attention to my emotions, my mindset. So she's a bitch, but also helpful.
well, it's better to have a bitch on the shoulder than a monkey, maybe. Who knows? So, interesting with him, I wrote to him on the Tuesday and I said to him, "I can't compete with the 3 degrees in Mr. NLP, but I can tell my story." And my story where I'd worked with him was that I'd gone to one of his events. And at the time I had a digital marketing agency and actually realized that I knew so much more than I did. So it boosted my confidence. And I went away and I picked up a contract for like £32,000 for the year. And so I told that story. So it wasn't a story about me. It was a story about how working with him had helped me. So that gave me a little bit more confidence to then speak. So then I was speaking in front of bigger crowds at road shows and at training and stuff like that. But it was very there was one client actually thought we were actors because it was so smooth. And I still said it really quick, in one breath, so fast that people thought I had an accent, all in one breath, so that I nearly fell over when I finished it, and just kind of like stopped and thought, and I used to blush. Like I used to go so red, like as a kid, I was a redhead. This is like no more. I've got a bit of grey, so I can't be a redhead, but we're still blushing. I'd just go bright red, like I'd done my whole life. And I'd be like, "Oh my God, what am I doing?" And that lasted for ages until one time I was speaking. And I went, "Oh my God, I'm going red." And he went nuts. He's just like, "Nobody cares. No one cares that you're going red." And he'd actually bumped into a door earlier and he was like, "I bumped the door and carried on." And so I never stopped blushing, but I did stop talking about it.
Yeah. And that's just it. I mean, oh God, I can remember my first times jumping on. Honestly, even just to record a video, not even to go live, my first few times, I finally had to start having a glass of wine to loosen up enough just to even get
Oh,
through it. I mean, because I was like stuttering so many times. I was blushing. This wasn't even live at this point. This was still record stuff. And
well, I was going to say, I did that in the lockdown, I did the COVID diary. So I started interviewing people just to kind of get more in front of the screen. I did these COVID diaries about how it was doing. And my feedback was, I was a bit boring. I was a bit flat. And so my coach said, "Deb, have a glass of wine. No, the next person you do, have a glass of wine," he said, "and then go on." And I was like, "That's outrageous. I can't believe he said that to me." But it gave me a real attitude. And so I was like, right. I threw the script out the window. I was so animated on this call. I could have been in the Wiggles. I could have been a children's TV presenter. I thought I was so over the top, so animated. And then when I watched it back, it was just normal. It was
yeah.
just normal. I was just like, "Oh my God." But it kind of freed me up. It gave me a like, "Do you know what? I'm just going to rock up as me," because I've tried doing this presenter with a script, with like with this format. And so then I was like, "Oh, and tell me what it's like. Why is it like for your business in COVID? How are you struggling? How are you suffering? What's going on? What's good? What's bad? Are you barbecuing and bike riding?" And so we got to like the real stuff as such. But yeah, he was the same, "Have a glass of wine." And I was like, some of these interviews in the morning, never done that, never had the glass of wine. Afterwards, straight to it.
Hey, you got to have the celebration glass. Of
Yeah, of
course. You
course.
got through it. Well, let's see. Dave here, he said, oh, yeah, Dave has been in a public speaking course. He couldn't do 2 minutes on Monday. Friday did 30 minutes like a breeze.
Well,
Incredible experience. A
well done.
must. Nice, Dave. Well done. Yeah. And then Derek, don't worry about being boring. I'm an accountant. I got you beat. Derek,
No,
you're not
I'm not taking it,
boring.
Derek. We love accountants. World goes round with accountants.
Yeah, and I've
So,
met Derek at a networking event. He's not boring at all. So,
Dave's just put over the top isn't a bad thing. It's entertaining. It was definitely more entertaining. It was definitely, and now I have some fun with it. You know, we have fun and if stuff goes wrong, you know, I think when I did that, that was right at the beginning of the lockdown, the COVID, when we were all pretending we're still in an office, right? We still were trying to be presentable and pretend and not make out. And I'd worked for a travel company as a sales manager, and that was home working before webcams and all this sort of stuff. It was like on the teletext. Yes, I'm very old. And I'd worked for them, and it was very much you were pretending that you were working from an office or a call center, and then the flipping dog would bark, and they go, "Oh, are you at home?" And it'd be like, "Ah, yeah, I am at home actually." So there was a bit of shame attached to it. So at the beginning, I remember somebody interviewed me for IGTV, and it was one of my first times that I'd ever been like, I don't even know. I didn't understand Instagram at that stage. And I went all around the house with my camera, right, trying to find the best light. And the best light was in the corner of my bedroom, and it was quiet. I went everywhere, by the front door, everywhere. But I had this wardrobe, and it had like smoke glass, sounds awful, right? Smoke glass doors, so you could see the clothes. So I took them all out. I took all of the clothes out of the wardrobe so that I looked professional, right? And I piled them all onto the bed on the hangers, just took them all off the hangers, got there, had my script, had all my questions. And then halfway through the interview, the clothes just started to slide off of the bed in this noisy clatter of coat hanger just crashing onto a wooden floor. And I was like, well, that didn't work then, did it really? But can you imagine even caring that much? Like, I've got my door behind me. Yes, I've got a like TED thing that's there, but I would have like never had that door. I would never have like, you know, it was just so, oh my goodness, yeah, we're still in an office here. And the
we've
COVID
all
changed everything.
we've all been there. I mean, we
Yeah.
have. I mean, actually, I did my first live TV show this past Friday, and literally, my internet's always great. My Wi-Fi, it's always brilliant. It rarely fails me.
Not
Goes
when
down
you're
right.
live.
Took me 5 minutes to get logged back on, and I couldn't even get back on my Wi-Fi. My Wi-Fi was down for 2 hours. Fortunately, my 5G was still good because I had to log back on my phone. But
I've
you
done
know,
that before
that's
now.
live though. That's live,
Yeah.
and you learn to go with it, and you just learn to expect anything can happen. It's just like these shows. We go live. We're guaranteed at least one siren every show. If not, there's something wrong with the show.
Yeah.
These
Or I
days,
would be
everybody
like,
keeps
I would
count.
maybe record in my kitchen and the kids would start really quietly trying to come out to the fridge, but your eyes go. So even if you can carry on talking, your eyes go. And so the other people are like, I think one of the times I did a webinar, and one of my best webinars, David said, no one cares more than you do. Do you know what? You're so right. This is going to sound really awful, actually. I did a webinar. There's about 120 people registered on it. In the day, we lost my mother. We
Oh no!
not died. No, not died. We lost her.
Oh,
Like
oh, you actually
literally, she
lost
never
her.
turned up. Yeah, lost her. Like she never turned up at the destination she was meant to be. My dad called me at 3 o'clock and went, "As she landed?" I said, "No, she's gone home." He said, "I'm here. She's not." And long story short is that the police found her halfway. I live in Swindon. She was in Slough on the motorway. She's never been on the motorway in her life. And somehow she'd taken the wrong direction and been on the motorway for about 4 hours. It's not funny, but it's funny now. And so the police turned up at my daughter-in-law's house, and the dog's barking and the baby's crying. And the police went, "Does she know anybody at this junction on the motorway?" And I said, "She's never been on the motorway ever in her life." And he was like, "Well, that's where she is. She's pulled into the services." And I was like, "Oh my God." So I've got this webinar and I'm like, the show must go on, right? I can't cancel everybody because
Yeah.
business is business. And I just went on and I said, "I'm so sorry if I'm a bit muddly, but this is what's happened." And she actually didn't arrive home until about 8 o'clock, halfway through the webinar. And I got so many reactions from people going, "How's mum? Hope she was okay. Hope that," and then people booking discovery calls because I'd been real. because I said, like, you know, I'm going to be scattered here. This is the stuff that I'm talking about, digital marketing at the time, and like how to promote your business and how to market. But like at the point that the police called and said, we've just dropped her off, I think I got like a round of applause on the webinar. But with human beings, right? It was crazy. It was very strange.
Well, and I think that's what makes speaking in any form, whether it's on stage, in actual in person, or on a webinar, we're still live. It's still all real life. I know people like to call only in person on real life, but it's all real life. How does that compare? You've talked here a couple of the big boo-boos, and we've talked about a couple of the big boo-boos, of course, that have happened while we've been on camera. You ever had any on actual stage? And how'd you handle it?
Yeah,
Was it
in my TED Talk. In my TED Talk.
Did you?
So my TED Talk, so I went on first.
Yeah.
So when I did the rehearsal, so we had 15 minutes, and when I did the rehearsal the day before, so it was in Canada, so everything had been done remotely. You go into the studio, and you know it was in a Western university, so it's students really, and some of them it's the first time. So they go in and they show you how to mic up, and I was 18 minutes, and they said your speech is good, lose a couple of things, but you're going to need to come down 3 minutes. And I went back to the hotel and realised I'd missed out a whole paragraph about this lady who didn't get on the bus. And I thought, oh God, I've missed Margaret out, and I've got to drop some other stuff. So I've got that. And then I was on at 9:30 the next morning. So I was the first person on, which is great for me because I tend to pinch other people's recipes and go, oh, I like that, add that in. And it's a mess. So 9:30, great. I'm the first person to go on. They announce me. And as they're announcing me, they announce me, and I'm still being mic'd up. I've not got my coat on. So I go on with the mic, and it's a bit swingy on the microphone. And I think, all right, let's. And what they did, they just disappeared. So you didn't know if they were recording. So you go out, there's the audience. Think, okay, I'll start. And then halfway through, somebody turned all the lights on.
Oh, no.
And I was like, does that mean get your coat? Does it mean get off, you imposter? We don't like this anymore. So I was like, what's meant to happen here? Type thing. So for about 30 seconds, every light in the auditorium was on. And I thought, I kind of just went, I'm not quite sure what to do. And nobody did anything. So I thought, well, I'll just carry on then because they time it. So if I was 9:30, the next person would be 9:46 or something. They're so tight on the times. So I thought I'll just carry on and we'll see what happens, whether it works or whether it doesn't work. So if you go and watch my TED Talk, they edited that out. They actually edited it out. So yeah, like I was just like, yeah, you can't. I don't know how they did it. They're very clever. They snipped it together and they took that out. And there was a loud blast of music as well. Somebody just leaned on all these switches halfway through, just like. Yeah.
So you had quite an experience on the TED stage. So for everybody here who's scared to death of doing a TED Talk, shit happens there too.
Yeah, it happens everywhere. I mean, that's probably the. Oh, even though I was doing a talk for L'Oreal, so you know, got onto being on stages where I'm getting paid to be on the stages, which is fabulous, and that's obviously the holy grail that I'm being paid by a beautiful company like L'Oreal. I was a hairdresser at 14, so it's a good full circle for me. And my slideshow didn't work, so it just wouldn't load, and it was blurry. So the host, who's meant to be doing the chat, was doing my slideshow. So I had to send it to him live on air, send him the slideshow by email onto the laptop, not onto I'm talking on the phone, it's on the laptop. So I have to email it really awkwardly with the whole audience there, like 200 people. And then he does it and I work the comments, which actually worked out better, but he went too fast in the slides, but it meant I could see the comments because otherwise you can't see the comments. So you can't see anything. All you can see is your slides.
Oh, wow.
So, and that's only a month ago. That's only a month ago, to be honest.
Oh, wow. See, it's always exciting, guys.
Yeah.
You try to plan for everything, but it's always exciting. Speaking of comments, let's talk to some of our people here real quick. Beth says, oh, yeah, I've been there with the self-consciousness just this morning on a private call. I'm wondering how many of my chins people could see.
Oh. Get yourself a ring light and put it on a pedestal. No one can see the chins then.
Yeah, nobody cares anyway. They just want to talk to you.
Or even,
David remembers when I was drinking the wine before doing recordings.
Oh. I put my Mac, so the chin lady or the chin person, if I'm using my Mac instead of my phone, I put it on the fruit bowl. So I put it up higher. so that I'm not looking down because I'm
It's over
bent.
you.
Yeah. So it's up here.
Yeah.
It's up here on a level, but most of the time we'll use the ring light and the stand.
Yeah. All right, Beth, you just got the whole tip on how to work with the double chins.
Well, and you're looking at the screen then. Otherwise, if you're looking down or you're like this for the whole recording, you're looking at the person you're talking to, and you've got this whole eye shut thing where you look very slightly bonkers, to be perfectly honest. Look like.
Well, and I do know someone else said, of course, have the camera a little above you, but then I had another speaking coach who said, don't have it so high that they're seeing up your nose while you're talking.
We're all human. We've all got noses. So it's just what doesn't distract you. It's not really what other people are seeing. It's what you get distracted by. So you focus on the one thing that you like. I'm a hair flicker. Terrible. I've probably done it since I'm on it. I will be like this. My sister goes, oh, there's the hair flick. And then I sit on my hands to try and not do it, but it drives me crazy. So I have to do this thing. And I probably need to go to drama school to get rid of the flick type thing as such. Because it's just, I always go like this because I can see it not being there. And most people don't notice it, but now everyone's going to notice it, right? Everyone's going to notice my hair flick.
I've seen it, but it's just part of Debbie. So
Yeah.
I don't stress it.
Well, obviously I worked for L'Oreal, so it's because I'm worth it, right?
Yeah. I mean, come on, there you go. You've got the L'Oreal flick.
Yeah, I've got the L'Oreal flick. So
see, now it's a signature for you. Who cares? Now we know why you're doing it. It's intentional.
maybe. So I've been doing it for ages. So it just is. My sister's literally like, oh, there it is. There's the flick, and I'm like, literally sitting on my hands, trying not to do it, and then I do. Oh, I'm just going to flick. I don't care. If it makes you comfortable.
You know what? And that was even what part of the show was, and we've done it. I mean, yeah, you got little ticks, little tells, and you can either become aware of them and then take them away, or for you can be like, it's just my L'Oreal hair flip.
It's my thing.
You could, but and we've talked about the curveballs. I mean, we know they're going to happen, and you've had plenty of curveballs happen in your life, not just on stage, but off stage. And one of those led you into cycling in India after you couldn't walk for a while. So how did that help shape what you're doing today? How can we use that?
So I said to you that I was talking and feeling like an imposter when I was speaking in business situations and stuff like that. And I realized that actually that wasn't the whole selling from the stage, talking from the stage, run to the back of the room with your credit card is not me. I don't like it. It's not ethical. I just don't. It works for some people. It didn't work for me. So I took myself out of that environment. And at the same time, I had a car accident and never really talked about it. I didn't talk about it because I just felt like I'd just done what anybody else would do. And that in the same circumstances, they would do the same thing as me. So, for example, at the car accident, I was stood and there was a car out of control, without going into loads of detail, car out of control. And I thought, I'm going to die and this is going to hurt. And then something in my head said, no, I'm not going. And I took 2 steps and saved my own life. And then subsequently ended up in the road, got knocked winded and knocked in the road, and then had to crawl to the side of the road because I realised that I was in the dual carriageway. So some people would just go, the fight or flight. I was annoyed with myself that I didn't fight quicker. I just thought, why did I accept it for that 10 seconds? I really hated myself for about 10 years. Anyway, subsequently to that, they told me that I wouldn't be able to walk, and I asked the surgeon 4 times. They came back 4 times with different scenarios, and I was so shocked that they told me I couldn't walk that I was like, no, you're not listening to me. This is what I need to be able to do. I need to be able to walk. I have a hairdressing salon. I go to Body Pump. I've got children. And to my utter surprise, they kept going away and then coming back with a different solution. And I had no idea that I could. I was very euphoric at that time. I was very much, I should have been dead, and I'm not dead. I'm, the luckiest person in the world. And I was like, I should be in the morgue. What's wrong with you people? I'm here. This is fantastic type thing. It was very buoyant all the way through. So after a while, I couldn't walk for 6 months. Then I learned to walk. And then about a year later, I went to a surgeon and they said, you're going to be in a wheelchair at 55. And I was like, well, now I'm going to have to argue with you because that's not happening to me. And so I ignored them for about 2-3 years, and then my body decided to go, actually, do you know what? You're not going to be able to do this hairdressing, and had to change my life and stuff. So as I was getting older, the fear of this wheelchair was with me. And I just thought, you know what, use it before you lose it. So I signed up for this bike ride around India because I thought, well, I've still got legs, I might as well do it, have an adventure. And I signed, this is quite funny. I signed up, you'll realise I do things, I don't think it through very well. I signed up to this 12-day trip and it was 370 kilometres. And I was like, right, probably going to cycle for 10 days, 37K, 25 miles a day. That's fine. So I paid my deposit. And I said to my husband, I'm doing this. And he said, who with? And I said, obviously not you then. So my friend then signed up. And then the paperwork came through and we only cycled for 5 days. We didn't cycle for 10 days. So it was 74 kilos the first day, kilometres, 100 kilometres the next day. And I was like, oh my God, what have I done? And I thought, you know what? I'll just have to work this out. I just have to work it out. If other people can do it, I can do it. This, you know, we can model anything. And because of the lockdown, it got moved. So I had 2 years when I first started, and then it got moved, and then was going to train and then didn't train. And then subsequently, the year that we ended up doing it was the year that I was 55. And so it became more of a big thing. And I wasn't doing it. I wasn't doing it initially for a charity, although I did. I paid for it myself. So it became more of a thing of like, this is the year I should be 55. This is the year that I'm going to cycle around India, and I'm going to prove the surgeons wrong. I'm going to prove to them that actually they don't know what they're talking about. 3 top surgeons in London, massively top, like no one gets to talk to them, 3 top surgeons. And so I was 55 in the July and I cycled in the November. So, and somewhere along the line from there, I started talking about the cycling and talking about what I was doing. And that's where my speaking career began, because people were interested in that.
And you use all those stories and everything to help inspire other people.
Yeah, I mean, I learned so much. I mean, I was terrible. I didn't know how to change gear. Honestly, did not know how to change gear. I just changed this side. I didn't know you had to change the other side until my friend said, why are your legs going round and round? And I was like, I don't know, I'm changing the gears. And she's like, what about these? I said, oh, I don't know how to use those. So I didn't know how to change gear. I didn't know how to put a chain on. I ordered some shorts that I cycled around, and if anyone is a cyclist, you know you need to have the padded shorts, right? Because that's the comfort. And for ladies, you don't wear anything underneath the shorts because of the chafing. So she was just like, you just have to have the padding, maybe 2 lots of shorts. And I bought these new shorts, and I needed like 10, 12 pairs to go to India. That's kind of how you do the packing. And I wore them to my friends. She said, they're a bit see-through. And I said, I don't know, I can't see anything. They're fine, they're comfortable. And she was like, yeah. And I just pulled my t-shirt down, off we go, cycling around the Cotswolds. And subsequently, like as we were going home, we were at the bottom of this really long gradient hill, and it's like the last hill, and we've done, I don't know, 35 miles or something on a Sunday morning. And she was behind me and she said, they are a bit see-through, I can see your tattoo. And I was like, do you know what, talk to me when I get to the top. At this stage I don't care, I'll cycle up here naked because it's the last bit. Anyway, I look in the mirror and they look absolutely fine to me. So I carried on wearing them and they looked fine in the mirror. What I didn't realize is when you bend forward, they become more see-through. So the tears so every time I went past Asda, people would just beat their horns and, you know, be quite like, thought that's nice support that they, you know, they're supporting us. And it wasn't until August, September, so hundreds of miles around the Cotswold I did in these shorts, right, hundreds. And I ordered the 10 pairs and they came and they were mesh. And I was like, well, this is ridiculous because these are definitely see-through. And I go back to Amazon and understand that there are cycling shorts and there are underwear. And I basically cycled in my pants for hundreds of miles for months around the Cotswolds. So I was like, I text my friend and said, solve the issue of the shorts. She's like, what? I said, underwear. She said, that figures. And that was the end of that. So, yeah, definitely was an amateur cyclist when I started. Still an amateur cyclist, to be honest. But yeah, I made some very rookie errors. But yeah.
At the same time, these rookie eras and these stories have allowed you to shape this into your talks and even your confidence, because if you can cycle for 100 miles in your pants, you can do anything.
I didn't know. I honestly had no. And it was only I met somebody who does cycling. She's like, rookie error, and only a year after the ride, I met this lady down in Cornwall. And she said, you know, when you bend forward, they're completely see through. And I was like, what? And I said, I checked. And she said, no, but you didn't bend. So I was like, no, I might as well just have no pants on whatsoever. Luckily, by the time I got to India, I'd sussed that out. And so didn't get stoned in the street, because they won't even let you wear a vest top over there without the risk of they're going to put a stick in the spokes of your wheel, or actually just chuck stones at you, because you
Oh,
go
wow.
through some
Yeah.
really rural villages rather than being on the main road. So they take you through all these places that everyone's laughing, mainly laughing at us, laughing and cheering. It was like being a celebrity, but a lot of laughter, because obviously there's 12 of us cycling and there's an empty bus behind, and they couldn't work that out. They were like,
So
why are you riding? There's a bus there. Just
you're
get on the
riding.
empty bus. Yeah.
So, what kind of advice would you give anybody who's second guessing their abilities to achieve a big goal like that, or getting on stage? I mean,
Just do it. So the advice I would give is, I'm a big believer in no doesn't mean no, it just means find another way. So when the surgeon told me no, I was like, no, that no doesn't mean no, it just means you've not found another way. Or I'm a believer that I'm not talking to the right person, because those guys kept going back and asking another person, and I had a successful surgery. When it came to India, I was just like, okay, other people have done this. And it comes back to that, like that real cheesy saying, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. So that's what I did. I chunked it right down. But I also am like, if I want to do something, then I'm doing it. If I want
yeah,
it so
I
much
don't like
that
to
it's
be told
like,
no.
yeah, there's no no's for me. If I want to do it, then I'm doing it, and I'll just find a way. So I wanted to do the TED talk. People were like, yeah, you're going to get a TED talk. And I was like, I'm having a TED talk. I flew to New York to speak at Columbia. I went to Cambridge. I went to Oxford. I got reels. I went on 50 podcasts, so that when it came to checking me out, I had lots of visibility. And at the time, I traded under Debbie Bryan Coach. If you type Debbie Bryan Coach into Google, I filled the first 2 pages. The reason for that is because there was another Debbie Bryan, and I wanted to get her off. I wanted to take her. Like, she needs to go, because it's too confusing. So I had lots and lots of visibility, lots of talking, lots of understanding what people liked. So when you're podcasting, you get real live feedback straight away. So I've got an understanding of what people like, what didn't. I like to be funny. I like to get a laugh. If I don't get a laugh, I will cry. And I didn't get a laugh on the rehearsal, and actually that threw me completely. So I just think, if there's something that's meant for you, then just grab it, do it, chunk it down, go. I'm there. It's in NLP terms, they'll talk about, where you are now to where you want to be. I go the other way. I'm like, this is where I want to be. How do I work backwards to here?
Yeah.
And also, I met somebody who inspired me. She doesn't know. I have told her on Instagram, but she never responded. So Amy Andrews, the boxer, I met her, and somebody asked her, and this is very early. Someone said to her, she didn't start boxing until later in life. How do you motivate yourself to get out for the hill runs? And she said, I don't. She said, what motivates me is that if I don't get up and do the hill runs, when I get in the ring, I'm going to get punched in the face. I'm going to lose. I'm going to be embarrassed, and it's going to be my fault because I didn't put the work in to make sure that I gave it my best. And that really resonated with me. And I was like, Deb, you can't wing this. You actually have to put the work in to be fit enough, so that if I got there and I couldn't do it, and I was terrified that I was coming back in a wheelchair, trust me, so frightened that I was coming back in a wheelchair, that I would do something that messed my knees up and meant that I actually ruined myself.
Yeah.
And that fear was there all the way through. So I was like, and my friend used to threaten me that if I got on the bus, she'd call me this Margaret, who I missed out of the whole thing. And so I was like, if I try and wing it and just don't quite train and I get there, I'm going to be miserable. I'm going to have to sit on the bus, and I'm going to miss out on this thing that I wanted to do. So I had to really, really put the work in, put the focus in, make some changes, make some sacrifices, learn my craft, learn how to ride a bike, learn how to change a chain, learn how to go from 10 miles to cycling 40 miles on a Sunday morning. But what I never learned was how to cycle 5 days in a row. I learned that on the job.
Yeah.
So we never got to that stage, but it was very much like, I just think anyone here who wants to get on stage and speak, then find a way to do it.
Well, and that's just it. You just got to start. And I mean, for
Yeah.
me, I was scared to death of it. And I was like, I'm going to do this. And I did it. And actually, my first, My first time, I was actually jumped right straight in the deep end because I agreed. I had another coach for a friend, and she invited me to come speak to her Facebook group and share all about how to get on LinkedIn and stuff. And she wanted me to do it live. I hadn't done anything live in years. And even then, it wasn't anything planned or anything like that. And so I said yes, even though I was sitting there, never done it, scared, everything else. And she gave me 6 weeks to get ready. So not only
Wow.
did I have to put together something I'd never done before, she also wanted me to have a course to sell at the end. I didn't have that. So I had to put everything together in 6 weeks and get up and do it. I wasn't perfect, but I practiced some ahead of time and I still got up and did it. And that was the start.
But then how did you feel afterwards?
I felt for 2 seconds, I felt amazing. Then I started ripping myself apart on what I fucked up on, to be
Ah,
honest.
stay with the amazing. Stay with the amazing. I was just like, I think if you can, the buzz for me, like I've been coaching for a long time, from call center to doing this. So the buzz for me is always when I see the change that's somebody's got their confidence, whether get on a stage and speak
Yeah.
or stand up and speak, or even just at a networking, not be dreading them coming around to do that 1 minute, and they've got
Yeah.
clarity on what it is they're trying to say. And I get a real like mama bear buzz out of that. I'm just like, look at my little chicks hatched. And
I
so if
know.
I can go on a stage and I can get people to just think differently, to just go, do you know what, there's more possibles and there's more opportunities out there, and actually if I just really tried for it, I could maybe move myself forward. I get such a buzz out of that. It's not about me, and it's not about making people run to the back of the room. Obviously I do self-coaching, but it's just about that achievement of making that difference and seeing that person be confident. Like,
Right.
honestly, that's the fire for me. That's what keeps me going and getting back on that stage.
Same.
So
Same. I mean, it is for me. I don't help people speaking the way you do, but I do help them get more visible by getting on guest speaking stages and just going to networking events and getting into the comments, this whole
mm,
visibility thing. And I'm like you. I mean, it's like every time one of them does it that was scared to do it or whatever, I'm just like, oh my God, my little chicks are
I
growing up.
know. I'm just like, oh, look at them. And it's just that growth, isn't it, really? And obviously with that growth, for the people that you're teaching, comes your growth. That's what gives you that little bit more confidence to go out there and talk about it, and say that I can help somebody, I can make a difference. And it doesn't matter, like to me, it doesn't matter if it's someone in the pub who's struggling or if it's somebody that's, in the audience or whatever. If I can just say to them, I'm very much a cheerleader. I like to cheerlead people and I like to go, no negative. I think that's why we clicked, is we both like to cheerlead
Yeah.
people and go, you can just do this if you want to. I've got a lady who, we call it Anifester, but she's manifesting and she's started a membership. And she set herself a target last year of 60 people in her membership by the end of the year, by the end of this
Nice.
year. By the end of February, she had 70 people in her membership. And I was just like, and she was just buzzing and absolutely flying. She did me a great testimonial. And I was like, that's what happens when you get that focus and get that clarity and start talking about consistently what it is that you can do. And she was like, I'm blown away. I thought I was going to take me a year to do it. And all of a sudden I've done that in 2 months, 3 months. But how also happens, not necessarily happens to, and I'm sure you've seen this, is like you have this growth. So people have the growth, they're buzzing and it's growing. And then the fear sits in the middle and they sabotage themselves. And so that's
Yes.
the bit that most people don't expect. And that comes when you're speaking. You'll go up and you'll speak a couple of times and it'd be great. And then you start comparing yourself to somebody who's another level.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
you, like for me, like comparing myself to the paid speakers and to this person. And then I'm looking at their artwork or whatever. It is literally, as you grow, you come to another level and then you have your new devil. And so that's where Debbie from Swindon comes flying back in, like
Yep.
literally flying back in, and goes, what on earth are you thinking about? What on earth are you thinking about? What are you going to go and stand on front of that big stage in front of 500 people? Or, you're going to go and work for L'Oreal, like one of the biggest international beauty brands in the world, and they're picking you. and like, what are you? It comes back again. So you have to kind
It
of
does.
revisit that same thing. Is it? I can't imagine. I watched, like, I'm not comparing myself to a rock star by any means, but the stage fright that they get going onto bigger and bigger and bigger stadiums is kind of that bittersweet balance of like, you're going to have it and then you're going to buzz your head off afterwards.
Yeah, and it's true. And I've talked to so many people who have, advanced very far in their career, and every single one of them has the same story, that the next time they're hitting and busting through that next level, that little person, Debbie of Swindon or whoever it is, comes bursting back through every single level up.
Yeah.
It's I think we've just got to learn that that's the normal thing, and be able to, all right, I'm seeing that, hey, that means I'm leveling up, and start celebrating almost that Debbie of Swindon has come back out.
Oh, when I'm in a stadium, there'll be merch. There'll be t-shirts, there'll be pens, there'll be hats. They'll all have Debbie from Swindon. And somebody's actually abbreviated it down to DFS now. She just calls me DFS. And I'm like the sofas. But it is one of those things that you just have to recognize it is there, and that's kind of but that's what makes you work a little bit harder. That's,
Yeah.
that bit of going, okay, I need to blow Debbie from Swindon out of the water. I need to like just get her off my shoulders so that I feel confident. So what I find sometimes it does is it makes you prepare a little bit harder. It makes you work a little bit harder. It makes you go away and tick some boxes that you might not have ticked before. Because if you were super confident, you're just going to stroll on and probably freeze. I had a client that was super confident, got on a stage last week in Amsterdam and froze on the first sentence.
Oh no.
First sentence. And I'm always like, one of the things that I say to people, and I don't know if any of your audience has this, is like, if it's your story and you mess it up, nobody knows.
You just keep
Like,
going.
no one actually really knows your story. You're the only person who knows that story. So you're the only person who knows that it's gone wrong, or you've forgotten something, or as long as it's relevant, as long as there's a beginning, a middle, an end, and what you wanted to teach, or how you wanted it to be. I talked about in my TED, I talked about the accident, I talked about the recovery, and then I talked about India. And then my very last thing was like, ladies and gentlemen, the year that I cycled India was the year that I turned 55, because I put that in and get standing ovation. But like, I don't have to have that in, but my purpose was to go, this is like, at the time I didn't think it was anything special, but afterwards everyone told me it was special. So I think, okay, I'll believe you. But this was something that I did that was probably more resilient. And then I go to see my surgeon about 6 months later, and he's like, I don't even know how you can walk, let alone cycle. I don't understand how you're actually walking on your leg. And I'm like, okay, maybe I did something a little bit more than I should have done.
Say, I'm just more stubborn than you believe, mister.
Yeah, I just want to prove them wrong. Just like, no, you're wrong, I'm right. I'm always right. Okay, so
There it is, Debbie. You're always right. That's what
yeah,
it is.
ask my husband. I'm always right. So
Mine would say the same thing, but he knows he should say that. So, and the right,
yeah,
David.
but it is one of those things. It's kind of, I think back and think, if I didn't have the attitude of actually no isn't the right answer, like I'm not going to accept I genuinely did not know. When I was in the hospital, I was so shocked that I had this broken leg, and I didn't know what a broken leg was. I thought you had plaster on your leg for 6 weeks and you went back to your life. So that was where I was coming from. And they're telling me that I'm not going to be able to bend my leg and I'm not going to be able to stand it. And I'm like, you're being ridiculous. You're literally being ridiculous. This is just not, no, I need to be able to bend my leg. I'm a hairdressing salon in a gym. I talk about not fitting into your life. Hairdressing salon in the gym, I've got children, etc., etc. And they were like, okay. And then they came back in the afternoon. I thought, here we go, they're going to go again. And they come back with a different solution. And I was like, well, am I going to be able to use my leg? No. Okay, well, that's not the right solution. But what if I'd said yes on that first time?
You probably wouldn't be walking today.
I wouldn't have been walking then. I would have had, so
Yeah.
my prognosis is that I will have a straight leg. So if I have to, like when I have my next operation,
Yeah.
my leg will be locked straight. So I would have had a straight leg for the last 15 years.
Yeah. And I mean that's 15 years you've actually gone to India and cycled and done so much other stuff. I mean, I'm like you. I don't like to be told no as long as I can find a way to figure it out. So it's the same on that. And how about our audience, real quick? Because we're heading towards the end of our session. What questions do you have that you want Debbie to answer for you about getting on stage or just getting over self doubt and fear? Drop them in the comments. And I'm going to ask Debbie. She did bring you a nice little gift. If you've thought about being a TEDx speaker, then she's got a checklist you can download. We're going to be dropping that into the comments for you as well. And then, Debbie, what's one last piece of advice you want to leave everybody with for today?
Oh, what do I choose?
I know that's always a hard question.
Yeah, I mean, like I'm nothing is impossible. That's the thing that I would take to somebody, but it's more than that. Somebody asked me, I was on an International Women's Day panel, and they said, what you do when you've got loads of goals. So if you've got all these goals, how do you choose which is the one? And so I think probably one of the things for me is, if I can walk away from something, I will walk away from it. It's not for me. If I can't walk away from something, then it's for me, and it's going to happen, and I'm going to make it happen. So the reason I ended up with a salon in the gym is because my friend said, hey, do you want to come get hairdressed? So I had a great job working from home as a sales manager with 3 children. And she said, do you want to come with me and have this salon? And I couldn't say no to it. Like I couldn't. So I made it happen, and I made it work in with what I was doing. So I just think if you've got something that really feels right for you, like you just cannot put it down. You cannot walk away from it. 9 times out of 10, it is right for you. Then give it 150%, no matter how difficult it looks like it's going to be.
Oh, I agree. And realize that failure is not failure, guys. It's just trying and erroring it until you get it there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's amazing advice.
It's very much like, if you fail, then you just try another way.
Keep going.
Yeah.
If you believe in it. Well, Dave here has a question for you. He says, I only took my course last week and I've added PS to my LinkedIn. However, how do you find the best speaking gigs?
So depending on where you're speaking, there's a couple of different things you can go. So there's 2 different routes of speaking. 3, I guess. 3 would be the podcast. So go and do lots of podcasts so that you hone your story, because you will get feedback on what's good, what's bad, what's funny, what's boring. And that gives you very good visibility and SEO. So you've got some speaker reels. Your other option is a pay-to-play stage, which is very, very popular. A lot of people will pay to go on stages if they've got something to sell, or they'll pay to go on summits, and there's lots of free summits out there that you can go on to. That's one thing. And then the other is to outsource. I've signed up with Champions Agencies, one of the biggest speaker agencies. The minute I finished my TEDx, I went and registered with them and said, hey, I've done a TEDx, come and take some notes of me. So you have to be very bold with your outreach, because it's a very crowded market, speaking market. It's a very lucrative market if you get into the paid thing, which is why it's a very crowded market. Understand what you're talking about, what you want to be known for. Do you want to be the get back up coach? Do you want to be the no doesn't mean no coach? They don't like that, by the way. I have to reframe it. They didn't like that at TED at all. But you have to say it means you're just talking to the wrong person, or, what do you want to be known for? Make sure that you've got a framework. Make sure you've got a 1-page, you've got a show reel. That's the way that you're going to get it. And if you don't have the 1-page, you don't have the show reel, you're going to go nowhere.
Yeah. And then you just got to have the guts to also put yourself out there and pitch yourself a lot and get told no a lot. Yeah. And keep going.
No, it just means you're asking the wrong person. See, that's where that comes in. So you get a no, yeah. You've got, you win speaking, sometimes you have to kiss a lot of frogs to find your prince.
Yeah, it's such a great question, Dave. It really is. I know, and also I can add a few places, because how I met Debbie was through I think Facebook group. You were looking for speakers for your podcast.
Yeah.
So I've got a list that I'm happy to drop anybody if anybody wants it, but where I've found good groups and places where I've been able to find podcasts and other speaking gigs, like summits and things like that, to get on as well. So there's so many different ways you can get on to stuff, but the big thing is you got to be willing to put yourself out there.
And sometimes in the beginning I went on summits and they'd put you on 8 o'clock on a Saturday night, and it would be a global summit, and there'd be 3 people that would turn up, and you're like, still got to give your A game for the fact that they haven't promoted the summit, or they haven't got the right people and stuff like that. So you get it, but get the footage. So Dave is saying 1 page. You have a one-page document that talks about what you speak about, who you are, and like where you've been seen. So like where you've been, like I've been on Apple TV, different things. So bits like that. Your Instagram, your following, where you've got, so the 1 page is, I don't know if you do that, Heidi, for them, do you?
I do.
1 page is almost like your speaker CV. That's a better word, actually.
Yeah, it's just your speaker page, and like mine includes like a list to the Spotify podcast I've been on, also the YouTube ones that I've been on. So I have links to both so that they can go and actually hear me speaking. That's really, but it's all it's your CV. It's your CV as a speaker.
CV, so where you've been, what you speak about, who you are, what you're known for, etc. So
what you speak on, the whole thing. But amazing, you must have one, Dave. If you don't, and you probably know what it is. It's probably a speaker page, since you just did a speaker course. I'm going to assume they taught you the basics.
I hope so.
I hope so. Not, that is a basic as a speaker.
And the other is
if not, you might need to talk to Debbie.
Yeah, he's got it. One thing I am running, I don't know if I can mention this, I'm going to do a 30-day speaker visibility challenge that's going to start next month. So if anyone's interested in that, then just send me a separate DM and I'll explain it to you. But that is 30 days of going live, or 30 days of video, 30 days of showing up on your social media, and I will just tell you your headline each day, and then you get on there and do it. And it's a really good way to get known and to get more visible and to get confident.
Debbie, after this, drop a link to it in the comments under this, because I know there's got to be people that would want to do it for sure. And that's a challenge in itself, because I set myself up last year. I did 30 days of lives, and I gotta say, that is a challenge. I set myself 5 minutes each day, went live every day, and that was definitely a challenge to do it for 30 days in a row.
Did you find in the beginning, though, you're talking to nobody, and then eventually you're talking to people, but in the beginning you literally feel like you're talking to nobody? When I
don't, but I already do so many lives, I've already got a reasonable audience. So in that case, I don't think I had a single day, even on the Sunday, I still usually had at least 1 or 2 people there.
Oh, that's good. But so for anybody else listening, you may well, if you don't have a following, that Heidi's always got a great following anyway. If you don't, when you start going live, you are talking to nobody, but that's fine, because you make all your mistakes in the first ones when no one's listening. It's only when you start to, and going live is better because everyone gets notified that you're going live, rather than pre-recording a video. That's like, I go into it, but if it's something that anybody wants to do, it's not 7 days a week. I don't work weekends. I'm like a princess nowadays.
If I did another one, I'm not going to do it on the weekends again. But this one, because I had always sworn, everybody does this 30-day challenges. And I've always said I was going to do one, I'm going to do one, but I never did one. So I set myself up for that. I think it was July or August last year. And I did it. I think I missed 1 day, and it was actually because something happened and I actually couldn't go live, and I called it up later. But and that stretches your skills.
It does. And your confidence grows through the time. And we do it for a process of, like, because I tell you what you're going to speak about each day. So there's a process of, psychologically, there's a process that we're going through. So you're not just going on and go, buy my product. Yes. It doesn't really work like that. There's a whole know, like, and trust for you to go through to get you to the stage where you can maybe go, right, now you can buy my products as such. So, but it's fun. It's fun, and it is. It's just building that consistency. And so my challenge, it came from a guy who's a digital marketer in America, and he said, if you go live consistently for 30 days on TikTok, at the end of it, you will have a great following. So to me, it's a challenge for me. No, I never kept it going. I tried it, and like after about day 12, I floundered and went, I will do it later, and then it didn't. So this time I already have, like, I don't know, about 1,500 on TikTok, so I can sell products if I want to. But funny enough, my audience on TikTok is all men. And I don't take my clothes off, and I don't do anything that's weird, but don't understand why. I don't know, TikTok, some sort of dating site that I don't know. I'm a married lady, been married for a long time, but they're nearly all men.
Huh.
And so the challenge is for me to bring a balance, to bring ladies who want to speak and bring something else. So I will post on all of my platforms and see what happens. I'll let you know after.
You're gonna let me know how that goes. I'm excited to hear about it. So, all right, thank you so much, Debbie. I mean, for sharing so much gold with us, and
Oh, thank
all
you
our
for asking me.
audience for your great questions, your energy, and thoughts on this as well. We appreciate you. I mean, we do this for you. So, for anyone who couldn't join us live, please drop your biggest takeaway from this later. Any questions you have in the comments, we'll pop back by and answer them. And again, thank you so much for joining me, Debbie.
Thank you so much for inviting me. It's been an absolute pleasure.
It was brilliant. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. See you next week.